Hello everyone, how's everybody doing today? Hope everybody's doing extremely well. So today I'm going to be talking about your inner voice. Because when we follow our inner voice, that's when the miracles start to happen. That's when we get into the state of flow. That's when we can start to attract everything to us that we want. And so specifically, for a long time, I ignored this inner voice that I had. For a long time, I had certain ideas of what I wanted to do with my life, but I always suppressed those little voices because it was always like, you need to start a business, you need to help people, you have to do these certain things, and it would tell me certain things to act on. But for a long time, I just ignored it because I was comfortable living in my 9 to 5 routine. I was very comfortable waking up for a job that I didn't really like. Although it was very comfortable, I was very comfortable with a girlfriend that I had at the time. It was all very comfortable. And that level of what made it comfortable made it hard to follow that inner voice. Because it's easy for us to stay in a routine. And it's easy for us to stay stuck doing the same things over and over. Although we have this little inner voice, and my inner voice told me, you have to start helping people. My inner voice told me to follow certain passions like surfing, skateboarding, singing. But for a long time, I never followed that. Because my whole existence was working, spending time with my friends, spending time with my girlfriend, and pretty much just working. I was working 60 to 80 hours a week. My whole life was work. And so there'd be parts and times where I'd feel a lot of motivation, and I would want to accomplish a lot of different things that my inner voice was telling me, but then I'd fall right back down the same old path. And that same old path, if you follow it, it's going to take you to the same exact place. And so we have to take a new, different path to get to somewhere different. And so the inner voice is one of the most important aspects of our own internal knowledge. Some people call it intuition, some people call it our heart. There's a lot of different phrasings and terminologies behind it, but for me that's not really so important about the terminology. Because once you start to connect yourself, and you know this even if you haven't even meditated before, because I knew what my internal voice was before I even started meditating. But I rarely connected to it because I was rarely connected to myself. And that's what the meditating does. That's what the breathwork does. Is allows us to connect to ourselves. So we can hear that voice. Because it's always talking to us. And it's always guiding us. But we have these external inputs from everything around us that noise is louder than that voice. Because it's easier just to go into that flow of what's happening around us, what our friends are doing, what's happening at work, what's going on with our family, what's going on with our partners, all those different things. And so your internal voice is the number one key to your freedom. Because I don't have the answers for you. But I can teach you how to find the answers, and those answers are all within. Each one of us has those answers within each of us. But not all of us know how to connect to ourselves. And this isn't something that we just learn as a kid. At least not where I grew up in the United States. This isn't something I learned to connect with myself. And this isn't very common. And this is something that they would label as quote unquote hippie-ish. And it's something you just have to find out yourself. And you can find out through reading, you can find out through practicing. There's many different avenues. But I have a good free breathwork that's guided in the classroom, in the school community, which is free, that you can go in, and that's going to help you connect further to yourself, connect deeper to your inner voice. And so when I was going on this journey, and I was stuck in this 9-to-5 job, working all these different hours. Like I said before, I had this voice tell me what to do, but I hardly ever listened to it. And so when I started to first act on this internal voice, this inner voice 3 years ago, things just started to happen. And I always wanted a business of my own to help other people. Something that I was doing that I could do in order to help other people out. And so that was one of the first things that I started following up on. And I ended up losing my girlfriend at the time. And then 2 weeks later, I lost my job. I got laid off. I was working at a startup, and the startup lost funding. And so 80% of the whole company got laid off. And so I was a part of that 80%. And so by me following what I wanted to do led me to have external events start to happen in my life so that it could push me towards what I was meant to do. Because if I stayed stuck in that job working as a startup and spending all those hours, I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing today. Traveling the world, helping other people. And it's the biggest blessing. This is my purpose. And to live from the space, my purpose, is the biggest blessing to other people as well. Because I can transmit what I've learned, what I've experienced, what does work, what doesn't work to other people in an easy fashion. So you don't have to go through all the same mistakes, all the same hoops. And so for me, the journey was super difficult because I lost everything, went into debt, lost pretty much the majority of my friends because I was operating out of a new paradigm, out of a new identity of myself by connecting to myself and following what I truly wanted to do. Because before, I was connecting with other people that weren't connected to themselves, and so they follow other things that aren't in connection with themselves. And so they're doing things other people wanted to do and not so much things that they want to do themselves. Because before, I used to struggle with being a people pleaser. I would always do the things other people would tell me to do. I went to university, I got a job, got a girlfriend, had all those things, had a car, apartment, all those lovely things. And not to say any of those things are bad, but for my path, I had to take a different turn and go down a different road. Because if I continue down that path, I wouldn't be where I'm at right now. I would still be in that relationship. I would still be in that job role. And I'd be sort of happy, but, I would feel this void. And that's what I felt all this time. I felt, on the surface, happy to a certain degree. But deep down, I felt anxiety. I felt depression. And it was something that I was just trying to run away from, all these different feelings and these situations that I was in, because I didn't really like my life on a deep down level, because I knew I was meant for more. And so just know, if you're listening to this and you know you have this voice within that's telling you to do things and that you're meant for more, know that that's true. And if you follow that internal voice, magic is going to start to happen. And so, it took me 3 years to get to this point now. And I would do it over and over and over again, even though I had to struggle all throughout the time to get to where I am. And, sometimes that struggle is necessary. But it's not that same type of struggle where we have to force something. It's just like climbing up a hill. Like sometimes it gets a little bit steep and it's a little slippery and you might fall. And sometimes you do fall. And I fell many times climbing up that hill to get to where I am now. And, in life and physically and metaphorically. And so the key with this is if you have connected to yourself in a certain capacity and you've connected to this inner voice and you have this intuition telling you different things to do, but you're not acting on them, that's the key. Because we will only receive enough information for us to take that first step. Because until we take that first step, we won't receive any more information. And so that was the same for me. And so it kept telling me to start a business, start helping people. But it wasn't until I started helping other people that I started receiving the next steps on what to do. Because if you're walking down a path and you don't really know where the path is going, the only way to find out is to take that next step. And as at each step that you take, it becomes clear. And so the same thing is in life. So each step that I took, the path started to open up and it started to become clear. And by doing that, I discovered my own path. And this is something I created myself. I didn't have any mentors or anything like that. It was following my own internal guidance. And so the key behind all this is our number one source of guidance is ourselves. Because there's no one else in this world that knows us so profoundly other than ourselves. And so the key to all this, connect yourself and start taking those steps that your inner voice, that your intuition, that your heart is telling you to do. And when you start to make those steps, everything starts to become clear. Miracles start to happen. People start to come into your life. Situations start to come into your life. And it all just starts to work out. And so if you need help connecting with your inner voice, check out the free guided breathwork in the Skool community. That will help you tons if you're trying to connect to your inner voice. Peace and love, everyone.